Welcome to the programme.
First tonight, the 8-year-old boy who's finally received full compensation 8 years after a hospital's mistakes that left him severely disabled.
Kyle Birch from Lawford in Essex has severe cerebral palsy among many other health problems. His mother claims he'd have none of them if her labour hadn't been mismanaged and delayed for nearly 5 hours.
Well, now Colchester Hospital has accepted 80% liability for his injuries and paid the family £1.75 million. Natalie Gray has been to meet them.
Like a teddy bear, one step.
When Kyle Birch was born, he wasn't expected to live. His parents were even offered the services of a priest. 8 years on, and despite his many troubles, he's a smiling, giggling boy who brings his parents enormous joy. There's no doubting their love for their son, but they remain angry that because his birth was delayed for nearly 5 hours, he's been robbed of a normal life.
I do feel a lot of anger. He shouldn't have deserved to have been in there for so long. They should have pulled him out earlier.
I couldn't stop crying. I was in shock. I didn't stop crying for days. And I still get a touch of it now, thinking about it.
So what went wrong? Tracy Birch was originally taken to Harwich Hospital, but was then switched to Colchester General at 3:28 in the morning of July the 4th, 2001. There were concerns about Kyle's well-being before she was transferred, but delays at the hospital meant Kyle was not born until 8:14, nearly 5 hours later. That delay, they said, led to Kyle being starved of oxygen and left him with a long list of ailments. Colchester Hospital has accepted 80% liability, and today at the Royal Courts of Justice a judge approved a settlement of £1.75 million.
Although the care that they've given is of a high standard, there's no doubt that having a financial settlement will make a huge difference to the family. I don't think there's any suggestion that it was deliberate or anything like that. I mean, these things do occur in hospitals, I'm afraid.
Colchester Hospital, meanwhile, says complex issues of causation were investigated, following which the parties negotiated settlement. The Trust is pleased that the High Court has now approved the settlement and wishes Kyle and his family its very best wishes for the future. The money will mean that the Birch family will be able to swap this tiny, cramped bungalow for one that's twice the size, that will include a sensory room and all sorts of equipment that will help Kyle, and also accommodation for a live-in carer. The payout will also provide for Kyle's ongoing care costs as he gets older, including specialist help with speech and language therapy and new technology and equipment to improve his quality of life.
This money will go a little bit away to help that, if you know what I mean. That'll help him give some of his life back, but it won't replace what it's taken away.
Looking after a child with Kyle's disabilities is clearly a great challenge. This settlement's been a long time coming, but it means both Kyle and his parents will finally get help. Natalie Gray, Anglia News, Lawford in Essex.
Next tonight, a top scientist has today been cleared by a Common Select Committee of falsifying climate change data. Professor
Phil Jones had been accused of exaggerating humans' effect on global warming after a number of his emails were leaked from the Climatic Research Unit in Norwich.
However, the University of East Anglia, where the unit is based, has been heavily criticised for not helping Professor Jones to make that data available to other scientists.
Well, our political correspondent Matthew Hudson joins us now from Westminster. Matt, at one point this looked like it could turn into a massive scandal.
Absolutely, David. I mean, an accusation that prominent scientists lied about their data in order to show the results that they wanted. Well, now the Science and Technology Committee has decided that they didn't do anything of the sort, but neither the UEA nor its climate unit entirely escapes criticism. Global warming, a worldwide issue causing widespread debate, splitting scientific opinion on how man's consumption is affecting Earth's melting ice caps and rising sea levels. At the centre of the controversy, the University of East Anglia in Norwich. Its climatic research unit is one of the planet's leading institutions on climate change research, which last year was accused of manipulating its findings. Under the most scrutiny, the head of the CRU, Professor Phil Jones. Skeptics say leaked emails in which he talks about using a trick to hide the decline of some temperature records prove he was trying to mislead. But a Common Select Committee report found no such evidence. It says these were colloquial terms used in private emails and they were not part of a systemic attempt to mislead. On whether the Climatic Research Unit had behaved dishonestly, they ruled there was no case to answer. But the committee did say there was a culture of non-disclosure within the wider University of East Anglia and that they should have done more to help Professor Jones deal with information requests. The university today apologised for the way it handled the situation.
I think that insofar as we've done anything that is less than excellent, we feel apologetic. And I think that we want to look very closely at how we did handle it and make sure we draw the lessons. I think it is quite difficult for academics, and you know, the more we can encourage openness wherever that is not constrained by something, I'm in favour of it. I'm rather with the committee on that.
The chair of that committee says he hopes lessons have been learned.
I think this is a wake-up call for all British science, that you cannot simply ignore people who want to question your science. Secondly, we believe that all data which is publicly funded, as in the United States, should be made freely available.
Research into and efforts to combat climate change are now multi-trillion-pound industries around the world. The report feels the very least taxpayers should expect for that kind of money is for all research to be open and completely above reproach.
So, Matt, it's thrown up some interesting issues, but what does this mean for the reputation of the UEA?
Well, a little bruised around the edges, Rhiannon, but basically intact. The most serious criticism the committee made was that the UEA didn't give enough support to the unit in terms of dealing with the literally hundreds of freedom of information requests that it was trying to deal with.
And what about the reputation of Professor Jones?
Well, again, that's pretty much intact. He took this very, very hard. I mean, he lost an awful lot of weight. He talked about thinking about committing suicide at one point. But as the committee chairman said to me rather wryly, perhaps the professor is now wishing that emails had never been invented.
Matt Hudson, thanks very much indeed. Now it's become part of our everyday lives that many of us rely on, and today it's 10 years old.
Yes, the first broadband internet service was installed a decade ago today into a home in Essex. But although 2/3 of households now have a broadband service, many are still having to put up with slow connections. Victoria Webb has been finding out more.
It's a sound that will bring back memories of frustration. But thankfully, gone are the days of dialing up to use the internet. Broadband has revolutionised the way we use the web. Back in 2000, Mark Bush from Basildon in Essex became the first person to experience the luxury.
Suddenly going from this really slow connection that I had to dial into and to the internet just being there and being absolutely lightning fast.
Broadband now allows people across the world to chat, share photos instantly and download films and albums at the touch of a button. These students at Norfolk New College say it's made life much easier.
I remember vividly the pictures taking ages to come in, and they would come in step by step by step, and you'd be waiting ages for something.
Our entire generation depends on the internet and depends on broadband for communication, for YouTube, and just kind of expanding both creatively and intellectually.
When the internet first came into our homes, it used telephone lines to transmit data over the same frequencies that our voices use. Things improved greatly when someone worked out that there were unused frequencies on phone lines, so you could have a conversation at the same time as working online. The future is in fibre optic broadband, which will offer consumers super fast speeds.
But as the 10th anniversary is celebrated, there are still many people who are desperate to have the speed of their broadband improved.
Suffolk farmer Sam Slater, who lives in Stansfield, has an extremely slow internet connection that sometimes stops altogether.
The paperwork and the office is an essential part of what we do, and just getting held up the whole time is hugely frustrating. This is dial-up speed, isn't it?
When we could get it to work, we compared the speed of his broadband with Mark's in Basildon. Downloading a movie would take around 55 minutes. For Mark, it would be just 16 minutes.
Norfolk and Suffolk are in the worst position after, believe it or not, the Highlands of Scotland and Central Wales. We have only something like 58% coverage in these two counties.
The main political parties are all pledging to improve the speed of broadband in the near future. Sam just hopes his address won't continue to determine the access he gets to this technology. Victoria Webb, Anglia News, Ipswich.
Shows, doesn't it, how much we rely on our computers now.
When they work. They're lovely
These
when they work.
These are working at the moment for now, anyway.
At the moment they are.
Anyway,